It's that time. UCF has a chance to end Baylor and maybe even Dave Aranda.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Turn us up, turn us on, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend, James Duncan, UCF sports commentator extraordinaire, to talk a little UCF football here on a Monday, guys. We didn't get our normal Monday morning show out, but we're here live in the afternoon because we had some news that we wanted to talk about. So on today's show, we're going to talk about whether UCF could break Baylor and maybe have Dave Aranda join the ranks of coaches on the unemployment line midseason. It's going nuts. It's nuts out here in these coaching streets right now, James. News on Stacy Gage. Scott Frost shared some stuff about the Knights backup running back. James, a big Stacy Gage guy, so maybe sad for him to hear this. We'll get the update on Stacy Gage. Also, we're going to talk about that UCF run game versus the Baylor defense. Could they have a big day? They might be the key to the game. Let's start at the top here. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time, our title sponsor. If you're looking for tickets to a game, download the Game Time app today. Swipe, ticket, tap, go. Game Time. They got you covered there. Look, James, in the preseason, if you had told me that this would be a win for UCF, that this game would be a win for UCF, I might have told you that you didn't know what you were talking about. But this is why we play the games and why we watch the games. And UCF defensively, I think, has shown themselves to be formidable versus everybody they played so far this year. Now, Baylor coming off a loss to Cincinnati, where Cincinnati really did a number on Baylor offensively. As a matter of fact, they did what a lot of people have been unable to do to Baylor offensively all year long, and that's stop Sawyer Robertson. For reference, Sawyer Robertson versus Cincinnati this past weekend, 18 for 26 for 137 yards and 2 TDs. Now, nearly 70% completion percentage. You might say, Mike G, but he played pretty well. No, by Sawyer Robertson standards, it was not a very good game for him. I watched him, even in the losses, rack up 400 yards on a lot of people. So maybe Cincinnati laying the blueprint here on how to beat Baylor. They limited the Baylor Bears to only 8 offensive drives on Saturday. I think that UCF has the defense to do something similar. Do not be fooled by the records. I don't care if this is a rebuild. This has been a really, really, really good UCF defense so far to date. And I think they have an opportunity to show what they can do here versus Baylor on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think laying the blueprint is the perfect way to put this, Mike. Definitely getting to watch Cincinnati beat Baylor in a way that really guides you, gives you the full guide on, hey, we can beat these guys by 1-2 touchdowns. Cincinnati beating them by 3 touchdowns. Obviously, I think it's going to be a little bit closer of a game, but you look at time of possession, something that's a phenomenal stat to look at in this game. I think we talked about it earlier, Mike. You said 11 minutes won. Time of possession in favor of Cincinnati's side. Something that we got to do against Cincinnati was beat them by 20 minutes in time of possession. UCF knows how to control the clock. So that is something that can happen. And Cincinnati essentially figuring out a way to limit Sawyer Robinson by only giving him 8 drives. Something that's very important is the less you give Sawyer Robertson the chance to torch you, the less he will torch you. You got to keep his drives limited. This is the first game. This game against Cincinnati was the first game that he had under 30 pass attempts. He had 26. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's had 40 in some games. He's had 50 in some games. No lie, this guy is a phenomenal passer. You got to limit him from being able to move the ball, Mike.
He's not just a phenomenal passer. He's the nation's leading passer in yards thrown from scrimmage. I mean, look, man, he's slinging around the field on everybody. But This Baylor team has other weaknesses that I think UCF can exploit here. Now you're talking about a Cincinnati team that beat Baylor. They're 7-1 on the season. They lost to Nebraska and then promptly went on a 7-game win streak to get to where they are right now. And that includes wins versus Kansas and Iowa State and UCF. But they only beat UCF 20-11. UCF was able to hold Cincinnati to 20 points in a game that it really could just kind of felt like UCF just beat themselves. I don't know. I didn't really feel like Cincinnati beat UCF as much as UCF beat themselves offensively. But you posted a 40 spot on Baylor's defense, and we'll talk about what this UCF offense I think can do versus the Baylor defense. But for right now, I just want to stay focused on what UCF defensively, how they're going to cause problems for Baylor. I think they have a chance to cause some problems for Baylor here, and that means getting out after the quarterback. But if you can extend drives and you can keep Sawyer Robertson on the bench, you have a good chance, I think, in this game. Look, I'm not a bit with as little disrespect in my voice as I can possibly say this. I don't think that Waco is that tough a place to go play. I don't really see that as a daunting task for UCF. They're going to be so intimidated by the environment in Waco.
Certainly at noon.
Yeah. If for a noon kickoff like on Fox, I don't see it. I don't see this as that daunting of a task. But I would say that this would be a signature win for Scott Frost.
Yes.
In year one, going on the road in the Big 12 and getting the win, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You need this win, and noon game, ESPNU. Like, no one's gonna look at this game and be like, "This is a premier game." But UCF fans need to, and the team better as well. This is a game that you kind of need to win because your schedule doesn't really get any easier from here. We're on a completely unbeaten streak in terms of the space game. You played a couple decently tough players or teams in your space game. But you might end up going against like an 8-1 ranked Houston this year. Certainly not an easy game by any stretch of the means. So you definitely want to go steal a win here on the road. It would be your first road win. It's doable. At noon, Waco, I wouldn't say Waco's the toughest place to play. UCF is brandishing a top 20 defense in the country.
They are.
Baylor is an offensive heavy place. And their offensive line coach is no longer with the program as of today. This is bad timing for the staff and team over in Waco to go against a top 20 defensive unit in the UCF Knights.
Yeah, look, what is largely believed to be a rebuild in Orlando, while it would be a good win for UCF, this is a bad loss for a Baylor team that was widely believed to contend for the Big 12 crown. I think we could safely say that that's out of the picture. They did away with the media poll, but internally, I just like to remind everybody where we here at Locked On, and when I say we, I see very loosely because I did not vote them up there, ranked Baylor in our preseason poll. They had Baylor at number 4 behind Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Kansas State. Look, Texas Tech maybe has panned out the most of these teams. Everyone else, man, has had a little bit of a disappointing season to date. So, including Baylor. So I don't know, man. You had your quarterback. You had your quarterback this year. And not a lot else has gone well for Baylor so far when you look at their schedule and where things have kind of lined up for the Baylor Bears. So, look, they right now are 4-5 or 4-4. They're 4-4. They're 4-4. They have wins versus SMU, Samford, Kansas State. I'm sorry. They have wins versus SMU, Samford, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State. They sport losses to Auburn, Arizona State, TCU, and Cincinnati. So if this, you can't drop this one. I think if you're Dave Aranda, you've got to win this game. They close out with top 25 Utah after this, Arizona, and a top 25 Houston right now. Now, you talked about that Houston game. That's the space game for UCF this year. They've never lost a space game, but that's not going to be a walk in the park here. So if you can grab this one, if you're Scott Frost, oh boy, I'm telling you, I think that the expectations are going to be sky high going into year 2 for UCF. But look, they're going to be doing it without one Stacy Gage. We're going to talk about his status next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our title sponsor, Game Time. That's right, Game Time. If you are looking for tickets, college football is back. So is the NFL. We couldn't be more excited. Tailgates, rivalries, energy in the stands. There's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Getting tickets to the game can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's where Game Time comes in for you and I, my friends. Use the Game Time app. It gives the advantage back to you, and it's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You get panoramic seat view, so you know exactly where you're sitting. You can get zone deals, right? Pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Stacy Gage, we got he had surgery. And he's going to be out for some weeks. We are speculating here at Locked On UCF that could mean the end of his season. You have championed for UCF to use Stacy Gage more in short yardage situations, in absolute battering ram. You know, how big of a loss is it for UCF? I haven't used them much to date, but, you know, again, you need a stable of running backs in today's college football. We love Myles Montgomery and Jaden Nixon and what they've been able to do, but taking Gage off the board kind of makes things a little bit tighter in that running back room.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Stacy Gage, I don't just view as a change of pace back. Long-term, I see him being one of the bell cows for this program at UCF. He's trained really hard in the offseason, and it's been really good to see him get used a couple times. You saw him score his first one against NCA&T. He had a nice 30-yard scamper where he broke multiple tackles, kind of juked and jibed. The talent is there, and his potential to boom is there. With that being said, he's also one of those guys that's on special teams. That's how he got nicked up on a special teams play, lower leg injury. I don't know if it was left or right. I actually saw the hit happen and then saw him kind of limp off the field. But sometimes you never know, that limp could be just from a bruise or a cramp or anything like that. So you don't know necessarily when it happens in person unless that person is down on the field for quite some time. Oftentimes when you see them make it off the field, you assume it's a minor nick or something like that, but that was not the case with him. And he will most likely be out for the rest of the season. Usually when you hear surgery, your assumption is out for the rest of the season. I'm not sure how many games he has played in terms of being utilized on special teams and or games where he has received carries. I would assume that red shirt mark has passed. So I would assume that he is not, coming back this year, but will be healthy and back next year. Another thing you got to look at, Cam Fancher, still recovering from 2 broken ribs in which he played the entire game with after getting hit a couple times in Cincinnati. Guy's a warrior. Jacurri is still working his way back. I would anticipate seeing a Tayven 1, Davi 2 situation here coming up in Baylor.
He's only participated in 3 games so far, so that red shirt is still on the table for Gage, should they need to take it. He had 5 carries versus North Carolina A&T in a 68-7 route earlier this season. He had 2 carries versus Kansas State, and he had 6 carries versus Cincinnati. So you can participate in up to 4 games. He had 1 more game of leeway before he could not participate again. But certainly they should be able to preserve his red shirt.
Does that count special team snaps as well? Did we look at those? Because he is used quite frequently on special teams.
Yeah, no, we don't know the special teams numbers, but like the snaps don't count in terms of his red shirt. It's only games participated in. And so with only 3 games participated in, again, that red shirt's still on the table for him, which I'm happy. I'm not in favor of these kids losing years to injury.
Yeah.
You have such a short Yeah. You have such a short time to make your mark in college football, and it feels like the years speed by for some guys. And so when you have an injury like this in a freshman season, and late in the season, you just want to make sure that this kid, however you manage it, he's going to have 4 years left to play after this season. They should be able to pull that off for him. I'm excited about what they're doing in the run game here. So Stacy Gage may not be a part of it, but the guys who will be a part of it, we're going to talk about next, because James, I think that the UCF Knights have a chance to maybe run up and down the field on a Baylor defense that is giving up yards and losses. We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score to the next to the fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making a late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300, guys, in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. NBA FanDuel. It hurts every time I say it. I have the saddest FanDuel story ever on a same game, on a 9-leg parlay that I will never let go. And yes, if you heard me tell this story before, I'm going to keep talking about it till the end of time. That's how hurt I am. But FanDuel makes it fun. Guys, go check them out. I want to end today's show talking about the UCF run game and what they have a chance to do something special on Saturday and in Waco. And there is plenty of precedent for what I think they can do happening on Saturday. Look, this Baylor team has been disappointing in a number of ways so far this season. As I mentioned, picked here at Locked On to finish top 4 in the conference. They may struggle to a 500 season the way this schedule. If they lose on Saturday, they may finish 500. However, if they lose on Saturday, I think a big part of it is going to be an inability to be able to stop Myles Montgomery and Jaden Nixon and even Tayven Jackson running the football at times. Now, as we mentioned in the last segment, Stacy Gage won't be part of that, but Myles and Gittens can carry the flag in the run game. And so there are a couple of relevant stats I want to talk here about when we talk about UCF. They've given up some big numbers in the run game. 307 to Auburn. They gave up 307 yards to Auburn. They've given up, what was it? It was, I think, versus TCU, they gave up 296 yards. They gave up the TCU. No, 196 to TCU. I'm sorry. And then versus Cincinnati, James, they're giving up big numbers in the run. Even in the wins, they're giving up 150 plus. If you're Scott Frost, you have to trust your running backs in this one. I know you love your wide receivers. They have supreme faith in Tayven Jackson. I thought he had a really good bounce back here versus West Virginia. I think Baylor is going to be a little bit tougher of a test than West Virginia was. However, man, run the damn ball. Keep the ball on the ground. Keep Sawyer Robertson off the field by extending drives, because that's what Cincinnati did, man. They won time of possession by 11 minutes, held the ball for almost 36 minutes in that game. And we saw UCF hold the ball for 20 more minutes versus when they played Cincinnati. And so you can do this. You have the blueprint is there to do this.
Yeah, the ability for you to win this game, like this game is so winnable. And I know that there's been a lot of games. It's like Kansas, we said that, and it was. Kansas State was like that until probably the third quarter when you had a lot of injuries that game. And there's been and Cincinnati, that game was in front of you the whole time. This needs to be a game where, and I can guarantee that UCF's defense will give this offense multiple opportunities.
They will.
But it is about tackling those opportunities when they come up. And because your defense has been reliable, your defense has stood tall, and you need to capitalize. Yeah, you need to capitalize off your top 20 defense in the country. Now, don't get me wrong. UCF's offense in terms of yardage, phenomenal. UCF's offense in terms of yardage is great. It is about capitalizing once you are in the plus area. You need to score once you are in the plus area. I don't care if it's a field goal. I'd prefer a touchdown, but you need to make sure that you're not making silly mistakes, whether it's lack of discipline from false starts, whether it's holding penalties, whether it's offensive PI, illegal man downfield. I do not care. There needs to be discipline on this team, but also I think these guys are more motivated and more ready for this game than they have been for other games. You got to mention that they're coming off a bye week. Some of these guys were nicked up. They had time to watch the Cincinnati game. This is the most available mentally and physically that they have probably been since the beginning of the season. And we saw what that looked like against the UNC.
Yeah.
We saw what that looked like.
We did. They gave up. Cincinnati ran for 265 yards on Baylor. 265, right? As I mentioned, Auburn at the beginning of the year, like some people like to chalk that result up to first game, whatever. No. Auburn posted 307 yards rushing on the ground on Baylor. And when you look again at the losses, they're giving up 200 plus on the ground. And that's exactly where you don't want to be if you're Baylor, is allowing UCF to control this game on the ground. Because let me tell you something, although it hasn't been as consistent, I think, as we would have liked it to be, they have been very boom or bust in the run game, but they have the ability, UCF does, to break the big one and get out on you. And if you're going to give up the big play and allow it to be on the ground, you're going to be in trouble in this football game. So I took a peek over into Baylor Bearland here this weekend, and they're real unhappy over there. Again, we opened up the show asking if a loss to UCF might be a fireable offense for Dave Aranda. And news came in last night. LSU asked Brian Kelly. We saw Billy Napier get the left foot of fellowship. James Franklin is out at Penn State. Guys who have won games. I mean, if I want to quantify this, right? Like difference in standards for programs, and why I'm excited about Scott Frost coming back to Orlando is that the mediocre result is no longer going to be accepted as acceptable. The barely over 500, at least we competed, like the we're just happy to be in the room type of mentality. No. LSU fired a guy that went 34-14.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're UCF too, you're looking at the three guys that you came in with being in the top 3 out of 4 teams in the Big 12 right now. You are performing the worst out of the competitors that you came in and went from the G5 to the P5 with. So the time is now. You need to get up and you need to go get some marquee wins. You need to upset. You need to, go win in Waco. You need to come back home. You need to upset a Houston. You need to get a marquee win. I mean, if you can keep close in Texas Tech and make it look like you belong, like these are the things that UCF needs to do. And the time is now, because that timetable is getting shorter and shorter and shorter for head coaches. And I would not be surprised if there's a couple phone calls made if Baylor loses this by 2 scores.
Yeah,
I mean, I would not be surprised at all. They axed their offensive line coach. There are position coaches all over the place right now in terms of Baylor and the Big 12 as a whole. This is an awesome opportunity for UCF to walk into an already chaotic situation and make it worse. Like, yeah.
James, culture is everything. And
Yeah.
right now, what we've seen happening at UCF is Scott Frost is not just rebuilding the roster, he's rebuilding culture and attitude. And these guys are playing defensively. UCF is playing with an edge, man. A lot of my fellow Locked On Big 12 hosts made fun of the Alex Grinch hire. And so far, it looks pretty good for year one down in Orlando defensively. They are 100% the strong arm of this team right now. They get after it. They get sacks. They create negative plays.
And through injury too, Mike. I mean,
yes.
Through massive injuries to this unit. You're talking about Jaden Williams, who's been out multiple games, who was one of the highest graded safeties in like week 1 and week 2 in the Big 12. You're talking about Horace Lockett, who led the team in TFLs and was second or third on the team in sacks. You're talking about Sincere Edwards, who had multiple sacks in a game a couple weeks ago. I mean, you're talking about big injuries to this unit. And Isaiah Nixon was out a couple games. Multiple middle linebackers out in some of these games. And despite that, they have been stopping units every week. And it's only games where they're on the field for the entire game that it feels like they're even having coverage busts or letting anything slip. Yeah. This defense is going to keep you in this football game. It is up to your offense to go into Waco where there's a spark and it's on the ground and you have to add gasoline to that little fire. And you go and you ignite the place, because here's the thing. Myles, and I'm looking at comments and I want to get to these.
Yeah, we're going to get to the comments for a second. Yeah.
Because people are talking about, Jaden Nixon looking like a phenomenal player. Absolutely. And people saying he looks better than Myles. People don't realize how different these two players are. And you need one to have the other. It's like you need Jahmyr Gibbs to have a David Montgomery. And so the whole reason that works is because of that yin and yang. You have a guy that's super consistent like Myles, that he does play a little flashy, and so he makes you consider every angle. Jaden Nixon is going to find a hole and take off. And the offensive line against West Virginia, they played a hell of a game. And they were making gaps where there were explosive plays available to happen, and they did that thing that we talked about after the Cincinnati game, after the Kansas State game, after the Kansas game, straining blocks just that little bit longer to give your guys that half a second or second where they can pop through those holes and those gaps, and it provided them with multiple opportunities to create explosive plays. You need to see that against the Baylor Bears.
You do. Look, UCF, as I mentioned, playing with an edge defensively. They look tough. They look tough, man. And Baylor looks soft. Defensively, they look soft. They look like their record right now, versus relative to the expectations that they had coming into the season. So if you're UCF, you got to come in and you just have to give them no hope, man. Just beat on the downtrodden right now. Come in and whack these dudes in the mouth because they're soft. Defensively, they're soft. So I will always give credit where credit is due. Sawyer Robertson, absolutely dynamic with his arm. He is a threat to beat you. And while I think UCF can do well in this game, I don't see a world where they win this game and he throws for 400 yards. Like you've got to hold, like Cincinnati was able to do it, to hold him under. As we talked about this, man. He's been slinging it. Last week we said, hey, he's already at 300 pass attempts for the season, which is some people's whole season, and they still got 5 games left. But when you look at his pass totals, he versus Cincinnati, 26 attempts is the only time he's thrown the ball less than 30 times this year.
Yeah, I mean, and only completing 18 of those, only throwing for, I say
137 yards. Yeah,
137 yards. I mean, that's not the usual for him. Guys like Josh Cameron and Michael Trigg. Michael Trigg he's ridiculous. I mean, that guy. I mean, seriously, he's my one worry of like who is going to guard them, and I'm so excited to see what Alex Grinch schemes up on defense to take care of this tight end, because I would say he's one of the premier tight ends in the country.
Trig looks like a Autobot, man. Like,
yeah,
he looks ridiculous. I don't know what he's on, but I need some of that because he looks like a cyborg out there. And again, I saw him in that game versus Auburn, just again physically imposing, but actually imposing as well too. They've got weapons. They've got weapons on offense. I'm not that scared of the Baylor run game, but the receivers in the pass game, certainly. I mean, I don't know anybody telling you they don't fear that pass game. They're lying. Those guys can sling it around the football field.
Yeah, I think in terms of this game, you have to understand, and with talented players as players like Sawyer Robertson, Michael Trigg, you have to understand that 90% of the time they are going to get theirs. It is just about limiting what that factor can be. And this game, Michael Trigg, I only think had 30 yards, which is probably his season low. 3 receptions, 30 yards, and a touchdown. That's a pretty average day for a UCF wide receiver, but that's not an average day for Michael Trigg. So
you only have 5 targets.
Yeah, so you need to look at trying to keep that similar vibe in terms of defensive scheming, because like I said, Cincinnati gave you the blueprint on how to stop this team. You need to go get after
it. And you, again, I don't love the transitive property of, well, we played this person, you played them, and then but for a like opponent, if you look at how these two teams both did versus Cincinnati, both on the road at Cincinnati, I like UCF 20-11, and Baylor like what 41 to
20.
20. Come on, man. I don't know. Like I said, I like what UCF is so underrated. This roster was not as bad as their 4-8 record last year. A lot of people will point to Gus and the 4-8 record, and I have been standing on business from the beginning saying that I feel like Gus had to coach them down to 4-8. They didn't have 4-8 talent, man. They had enough talent to win 6 or 7 games last year. But, mismanagement at the quarterback position, Scott Frost seems to have fixed that at least to some extent already this year. And then continuing the tradition that RJ Harvey left in the run game, because he was, in my opinion, versus what he was up against, the best back in the country. Ashton Jeanty does not take anything away from Ashton Jeanty. I'm talking about based on with teams absolutely able to just completely hone in on the run game because you could do nothing else. This man went out and averaged 6.8 yards per carry. And Jay Nixon and Myles Montgomery had to follow that up. And so far this year, I think these guys have done a pretty good job, keeping the run game at least relevant for UCF. So before we get to the comments here and in the show, I do want to play a little game. You've got some games left on the schedule.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to talk about is if UCF wins this game, where do they finish in record? If you beat Baylor, where do you finish? You're 4-3 right now. You beat Baylor. Where do you finish?
Mike, I can't put, I can't say 6-6. I can't say that because I'm thinking if you lose to Baylor, you go 6-6.
Okay.
And if I say you go 6-6, that means you either drop the game to Oklahoma State or you lose your space game. And I do not want to put that out into the world. I'm knocking on my wooden table right now. But wow.
Come on. Okay, I'm going to lay it out for you, right? Again, you're at Baylor this weekend. You got Houston at home for the space game. You're at Texas Tech, number 13 Texas Tech. You're at home versus Oklahoma State, and then you finish at number 10 currently BYU. So you've got 3 top 25 matchups left on the schedule if you're UCF. Some absolute opportunities to show off where your program is headed.
7-5.
7-5?
7-5. Give me 7-5. If we win, against Baylor, give me 7-5.
Oh, they win 2 more. Right. Who are your 2 that you're winning?
If we win 2 more, you got to win. Like I think everyone's going to say you win Oklahoma State and you win your space game, because I think you can't take away the magic of the space game. It's just there. And you can't go into that game being like, we're going to win this. Nope, nobody has a chance. But you never lost, Mike. You never lost. You can't take away the magic, man. That's like, it's what it is.
This is gonna be very, very interesting. And so I can't wait to see it. But we'll see where they end up. Let's get to some comments here before we get out of here. I want to thank everybody for joining our Monday afternoon live. Twizzy 579 says, "Go Knights, charge on." I would like to say that every game Tayven played, all 4 quarters, it resulted in a win.
That is true.
I mean that is quite literally a fact. So hopefully they can continue that streak there. Twizzy comes back again and says, "So if he can stay healthy and our run game can be strong, we will win." The run game is going to play a huge role in this, James, for UCF. I don't. If they're slinging it around the field, it probably means they're playing from behind, which means something's else is going wrong in this game, which means you either let Sawyer Robertson go wild and you're having to play catch up the whole game just to keep up with them scoring, or something else broke down for you. Let's see here. So Twizzy comes back again and says, Cam Fancher's injury doesn't mean much to me. Still praying for his recovery, though. Tayven can take us to the promised land. Okay. Cam Fancher's, I don't know, man. It does mean something to me.
I think it's good. I think it's a really good it's safe to know that you have Fancher, like, in case of emergency, break that glass. Because QB injuries are not uncommon, especially for this UCF team. So you're one injury away from being a 5-7 team.
Yeah. So
you better hope that Cam recovers quick and that Tayven does not get injured.
Yeah. Isaiah Carrion, T6P says, we're going to win. Go UCF. Simple, but I love it. We're going to win. I think that UCF has a good shot here. I'm going to make predictions later in the week. I'm going to say my prediction for our pregame show, but I don't think some people will be shocked. Twizzy comes back and says probably 6-6, but hopefully we finish strong.
That was in response to a question above. If you want to highlight that one, it says, so based on the performance at West Virginia, assuming we see a similar performance at Baylor, how far do we think UCF can realistically go this year? I think what we were talking about, if we see a similar performance as West Virginia, you win this game against Baylor, you go 7-5, you go 6-6. I don't know, Mike. It's up in the air.
Yeah, the Baylor defense, again, to me, leaves a lot open in this discussion because I think they're soft. They don't scare me here. If you're UCF, you go down in this game because you beat yourself offensively by turning the ball over, dumb, untimely penalties. The stuff that normally kills you when you're going against a team that hasn't really been that formidable defensively, but suddenly you find yourself, scrapping it out. Comedy Clip says, I think Houston is a little overrated, and it being our space game, we can easily take that. It's nuts because the space game, it feels like it has homecoming feel every single year.
Yeah,
we never lost one, but I won't be disrespectful to Houston. Don't let this be the year that you lose the space game finally. Because if
Mike,
you can clock that one.
Would you say that the ESPN matchup predictor has been relatively accurate all year?
It has. It really has, though. For UCF games, it has.
Give me a guess on what you think. Give me a guess. Don't look it up. Give me a guess on what you think that is.
For the space game?
For the space game.
82%.
Houston?
UCF chance to win? Like
82% UCF chance to win against a 7-1 Houston.
It's a space game. It's a space game, baby. Come on.
I don't know. I was thinking that 62.9% was high. They give UCF a 62.9% chance to win.
Okay.
Bounce house. Somebody at ESPN must know it's the space game, because other than that, I see zero reason why UCF should be favored. But somebody obviously knows that
records aren't
they're going to be rocking black and blue that day.
You know, James, we talk a lot about advanced statistics on this show, right? Like, and they tell a story. They tell a story. Stats can lie, but only when you don't have context.
Yeah.
And when you look at where these teams are relative to their peers right now in conference, you're talking about a Houston team that is top 5 in the conference in defense right now. In scoring, they only 18.6 points per game. That's salty. That's a salty defense here. In terms of yards, they're 6th, but then UCF is 3rd. So advantage UCF. And then offensively, if you look at them, they're not that great in terms of yards per. Only 381 yards per game. UCF right now putting out 445 yards. If the averages hold, that's all advantage UCF here.
And they have had a definitely lighter front half of their schedule. This Houston team, they are ranked. Are they ranked? They should be ranked. Yeah, I was going to say they're 22. Yeah, they're 22. So, I would be surprised if they're not still ranked by the time they get to us, unless they drop a quick one. I don't know who they play this week, but I would be surprised if they weren't still ranked. Connor Wegman's, faced injury throughout the year. I think he's still a great quarterback. 12 TDs, 2 interceptions, 123 completions on 193 attempts for 1,581 passing yards. But you never know. This league is crazy, and crazier things have happened. Texas Tech recently lost their backup QB, who they have used multiple times in running situations. He tore his ACL. He's out for the year. So I don't know. This league is crazy. So you never know. You could put Houston's face on the floor. I mean, you could come into that game and absolutely stomp them. But I don't think anybody should be looking ahead to that game. The focus this week is Baylor.
Man, look, you beat Baylor. If UCF beats Baylor, hear me out. If they beat Baylor, I'm going 8 wins.
Whoa.
I think you beat Baylor. I think you get the space game. You get Oklahoma State. And I think they surprise BYU at the end of the year.
So you think you win 4 of your next 5?
Yeah. If you beat Baylor. You lose to Baylor. If you show me that you cannot beat a Baylor defense that has, again, like I said, given up rush yards to a lot of folks, then I will adjust that prediction. But if you can beat Baylor the way I think that they can beat Baylor, then yes, I will give them a chance to get to 8 games this year. And what an opening, what an opening act for Scott Frost in year 1. To take a team from 4-8 to 8-4 in year 1. I hear everyone's going to call me delusional in the comments after this video, but
I will be in the comments joining them, Mike.
Comedy Clips comes back and says, I also think they know our level of defense has been playing at, which probably plays a factor in that percent. Right? Our guy T.O. Bro 9730 says, I like the prediction of 8. Go Knights. I'm not a big fan service guy. You know this about me. I'm not a big rah-rah, just say it because I hope it happens. I'm telling you, the statistics, and it also, you have to be a little bit bold to predict this, but there's a path there. But it's contingent on this weekend. If you beat Baylor, there's the math that supports the UCF could win 8 games. And then everybody's going to be sitting here and they're going to be like, oh, man, you guys told us. And we're going to say, yes, we told you so. That's what we do here at Locked On UCF. James Duncan, UCF sports commentator. I want to thank you for joining me on today's show. Loved all the live comments here. Guys, we want to hear from you. What do you guys think? Does UCF win this weekend? Hit the comments after the video and let us know if you think UCF can get Dave Aranda fired this weekend. Also, talk to us about this UCF run game. Over under 200 yards rushing. We want to hear from you. As I mentioned, Cincinnati running it up, Auburn running it up. Could UCF be the next to run it up on the Baylor defense? Again, let's
don't forget, commenters, likes, subscribe. I appreciate all of you guys coming in here and commenting on our live stream. We will probably have another live stream on Wednesday for that injury report, Mike.
Yeah. We'll live stream Wednesday night for the injury
all
report.
Right, guys. Yeah. You guys got to know this. We're the only podcast in the UCF space that comes on here directly after the injury report is released. We are the only ones in the space doing it. So if you guys want to come in here and chat injuries when they happen, it is Wednesday at 10 o'clock is when the injury report gets released. We make some quick graphics and we get a full episode up for you guys. We are the only people in the space doing that. So subscribe, hit that notification bell so you guys get up on here. We want to see you guys Wednesday, 10:15, 10:20. We'll be on here discussing the injury report. So if there's any big names, you guys better be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Working hard. Jameson Rayfield, 1938, says 8. He says, look, I'm getting everybody on the 8 train here.
Mike.
Yeah, we may have to eat some crow after Saturday if UCF can't get it done versus Baylor, but I have a strong suspicion that they're going to get it done. So we'll see. Guys, I want to thank everyone for joining me on today's show. Thank you so much for making Locked On UCF your first, second, third, fourth, all your listens of the day. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with more Locked On UCF.